This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Final hour of the week on this Friday. College football season officially kicks off this weekend. Game in Ireland with Florida State and Georgia Tech. We got some FCS games tomorrow. Figured like a perfect segue for our next guest, who is now the chair of the FCS playoff committee. His day job is athletic director at North Dakota State. So got to balance that as we welcome back for his monthly appearance. Matt Larsen joins us here on a Friday. I'm going to get you in trouble right off the hop. Your thoughts on week 0? You did this twice over at NDSU. So, but the first one, I mentioned this off the top of the show. The Bison-Montana game was awesome. And then the next year, everybody decided to hop in the boat.
Well, and I think that's part of the issue is it originally, the initial idea behind it was to be able to showcase FCS football. And that's where FCS only got the exemption to have a game. And there were some rules and parameters around it, but it was nationally televised.
Yep.
And it was a big deal. And then just like anything else, everybody else wants a piece of it too. And so now you see multiple FCS games. You see FCS versus FBS. You have FBS only games. And so I think it is definitely taken away from it a little bit. It's still, for a lot of, there's probably 3, 4, 5 games, whatever it is this week. I think at least for college football fans, there's still a lot of good visibility, right? People that are eager for college football to start, they're going to turn on whatever's on. And so there will be some visibility this weekend. And I know Montana State's playing at New Mexico, and I think it's favored now by almost 2 touchdowns or something. But again, in a lot of ways too, that's good for FCS football. And so, yeah, it's good. I mean, it's just, unfortunately, it's become a little watered down, and part of the initial reason for doing it has kind of faded away.
You anticipate maybe in 2-3 years, this is the official weekend to start the college season with the playoff as late as it is on the calendar now?
It wouldn't surprise me. I think for a couple of reasons is, maybe it's an opportunity because now you're starting to look at a long season, even at the FBS level with building in now extra playoff games. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, it allows, programs to maybe have 2 bye weeks within the year, just because, it's a long season. It really is, especially if you're making that run deep into the playoffs. And, I've been pushing more lately too is, why can't FCS have the same option every year if we want to play 12 games, instead of having, depending on how the calendar falls, like this is a 12 game season. Last year was 11. At least give them the option. You don't have to play 12, but having the option would be kind of nice. Or like I said, or have the option for maybe another bye week if that's what that program chose to do. So I think it's going to continue to move a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if week 0 becomes week 1.
So that just means your summer vacation goes from 2 weeks to 1 then, basically then?
Pretty much. So, yeah, why not? Who needs summer?
July is irrelevant anymore, and so there you go. Off of what you said, though, and your other job as playoff committee chair, how much you watching tomorrow's Montana State game? How much can that vault for the conversation to November if they perform well tomorrow?
No, I think definitely one of the things that I really commend our committee with and the committee members is watching games is probably the best evaluation tool we have. I mean, we have all the other things. We have polls. We have new metrics that we're going to utilize this year. So those are all helpful. To me, nothing beats the eye test, right? Where you actually can watch a team, watch how they match up against different programs, head-to-heads, all of that stuff. So, yeah, that's going to be really important for us. The one thing we have talked about, though, a little bit as a committee is not every game is the same as not one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And how do you evaluate? And that's part of, we may talk about this a little bit when you look at some of these metrics. How do you build in that every FBS game shouldn't be treated the same from an evaluation standpoint? Every non-division one shouldn't be treated the same. And so what does that look like as we move forward? So, which I think will be good. So it's just, again, the greater tools that we have as a selection committee, the greater job we're going to be in choosing the field.
So you held a press conference on Wednesday to talk about the upcoming season, the changes to the format of the playoffs, to try to get to in a second. I know we've talked about the title game moving to Monday, and for those that missed that conversation, you can podcast that. But the thought process, Matt, and just correct me if I'm wrong, there's no other games now happening on that. Is that an opportunity to maybe permanently carve out Monday as the place and time for that game?
That's what I'd like. Again, as the AD at NDSU, and I think even conversations we've had on the committee with NCAA staff, it would be nice to be able to zero in on the same day
Yeah.
every year. Since it's been in Frisco, we've had Friday, we've had Saturday, we've had Sunday, so it's been all over the place. It'd be nice to kind of find that home, and obviously things have changed over the course of that time too. Where when we first started, the NFL, they hadn't expanded their season yet. We weren't going head to head, excuse me, with the NFL regular season. So now that's happening. So a lot of things have changed. Now the college football playoff expansion, their schedule is adjusted, and that's where the Monday night slot opened up. And for us, whether you're an NFL fan or you're a football fan, you're so in tune and scheduled to watching Monday Night Football. And so for us to be Monday night prime time on a major channel, and really not going head to head with anything is important. As much as I think the Sunday ratings have been okay, you're going head to head with the NFL.
Yep.
And so I'd love to see, as a standalone, what can we do with this game? How many eyeballs can we get on it? How can we grow it? And so I think we're contracted for 2 years for that Monday night. And we'll see. Hopefully it's wildly successful and we can make that kind of the permanent home of the championship game.
It's ESPN. Do you know a time yet? Have they told you a kickoff time yet?
We don't have a time yet. It's going to be in the evening. We just don't have the exact window yet, but it should be in the evening.
How was Frisco on this? What was the reception? I know Friday night they were not fans of. How were they Were they receptive to Monday night?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they've been unbelievable partners in so many ways. I think back to just my first time there and the level of investment they've put into the facility and just some of the other things that they do to support the game. No, they were all on board. But I mean, that was definitely a big part of the conversation. How does it impact their facility? What else do they have going on? They know the local community better than anybody, even though I think we've seen at least in the last decade plus, hasn't been a whole lot of tickets left for the local community because the fans gobbled them up. But when you're bringing that many people, you're going from a Sunday afternoon to now close to rush hour, prime time. What does that do in terms of getting to games, traffic, all of that stuff? And so they've been on board. They love the idea. It's something different. And again, for them to be able to showcase their facility, national TV, prime time, more eyeballs on their facility. So kind of a win-win for everybody.
I was cheering from the rafters when you told me months ago about the potential of seeding the top 16, because this has been long overdue. I think people in Fargo certainly understand that. For the bracketing part of that, Matt, can you give us the overview of how that will look when you seed teams 9 through 16?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna fit in, and the bracket's gonna hold. And I talked to Eric Peterson a lot about this the other day because it's early on. It was bid process. It was all of those things. Really, 9 through 16 are going to be treated exactly like 1 through 8 have been for history of the tournament. Where they're going if seeds hold, they're going to be able to either host or they're going to know how the rest of the bracket's going to play out. So in theory, if in the first round 16 wins, 16 is going to play into 1, 15 is going to play into 2, et cetera, et cetera. And so which I think is good. I mean, we've talked about this for years about trying to make it more of a national tournament and not a regional tournament. And I think this is a huge step in that direction.
So of the teams that aren't seeded, so 17 through 24, will they be placed regionally with 9 through 16? Do you understand what I'm asking on that?
Yeah, there'll still be a little bit of, so that first round game, we'll use the traditional bracketing principles that we've used in the past.
Okay.
So if schools within 400 miles of a seeded team, most likely they're going to go there unless they played in the regular season. We're going to try to again still steer away from regular season rematches, at least in week 1. That becomes even more challenging now though with seeding 16.
Yeah.
So this first year there's going to be some, and we've had conversations at the committee, try to think of, okay, what are all the, I don't want to say pitfalls is the wrong word, but what are some of the challenges we're going to have that we haven't faced in the past now with seeding 16? And again, when you look at, there's been leagues that are getting now 4 and 5 and sometimes 6 teams in. that makes it challenging. So again, I mean, all good problems as we try to navigate it, and we'll try to work through some of those things as we go through. And we've gone back and we've done some mock brackets over the last couple of years just to get a feel for what the additional cost is, but what challenges that may present. But yeah, so for that first round games, it'll be kind of our traditional bracketing principles that'll place 17 through 24 into the bracket, the 9 through 16.
For those games in particular, would that determine who gets seeded 9 through 16, or no? That has nothing to do with it in terms of regionality.
No, I mean it truly is blind from that standpoint.
Okay.
We're going to go through, and we're gonna in our mind we're gonna see the top best or the best 16 teams, 1 through 16. And then we'll worry about that on the back end. And that's why I do give a lot of credit to the NCAA, because doing this, there's going to be some increased cost.
Right.
As we look back at a couple of brackets, and again, it's, this was a little bit of a snapshot because, this year you could have 24 completely different teams in theory, right? So, but looking back the last couple of years, it added anywhere from 1 to 2 flights over the course of the entire bracket. So there's increased cost. And so thanks to the NCAA for recognizing the value of this championship and, the needed investment to make it even better. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to figure out as we go through it. But I think all in all, it's going to be really positive for FCS football.
Now, I know fans sometimes got hazy on this for rematches. They could happen if you're not in the same conference, but if you're in the same league, you can't play in the first round. Is that principle still going to carry over?
Typically, any rematches for the first round, we try to
stay away from. Yeah,
it's not hard and fast.
Okay.
I mean, if we had to, really, what you try to also do too is you don't want 2 conference opponents to play each other in the first. Even though, we had
been down that road.
When you look back, what was it? Probably 2 years ago. I think Southern Illinois and USD did play regular season, so they played each other, and that person fed into
NDSU.
North Dakota State. So you'll still have, and again, that's the challenge for leagues that have more than probably 3 teams in. There's a good chance you could get some first round matchups. Again, based on just geography, and then based on just the sheer amount of teams that you have in the bracket.
One last question before we go to break, and that's about the new metrics. I'm intrigued in this because it's been so, you and I have talked both on and off the record about how you guys figure this out, but this seems like a pretty, is it black and white to say, okay, this is what we're going to use, and this is how we're going to determine who makes the field?
No, it's not. I even think back to when I was on the softball committee, we had the RPI.
Yep.
And what we've always tried to say is there's a number of things that we use when we evaluate teams. And again, I go back to what I opened up with. I mean, to me, the eye test and watching games is huge. But then we look at strength of schedule, head to head. We look at we're going to look at the metrics. We're going to look at the polls. So those are all the pieces that we use. So I would say we don't necessarily favor one over the other, but just like with anything else, and I always say the biggest challenge as the committee is deciphering between 8 and 9, and now 16 and 17, and 24 through 28, right? Because you really are, those resumes start to look really, really similar.
Yep.
So the more data we can have that helps us maybe when you're splitting hairs, where if now maybe some metrics align, we can say, okay, well now here's the difference between X school and Y school. We also saw them play 7 times, and we think this one's healthier. So you start to pull all that information. So really the more data you have, especially when you're getting down to either eliminating teams from the field or those seed lines, become really, really important. And again, you can look at resumes and they're nearly identical. And so that's what makes it hard. So the more information we have, the better we'll be able to make those determinations.
You got a few more minutes to chat on some Bison stuff?
Sure.
All right, we're going to do that. We'll take a break. We come back. More with Matt about the game day changes coming to the Fargo Dome. In anticipation, we're 6 days out from the game in Boulder. We're back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Friday morning, Hot Mic rolls on. Red hot picks with my dad coming up in about 15 minutes. Matt Larsen back with us, NDSU AD. You've already done this a few times over with your kids. My son is starting kindergarten on Monday. Yesterday I was talking about, like, I'm going to do my best 40 time to get out of the school before he sees me lose it. Do you have any help, any tips for me on Monday?
Yeah, it's an emotional day.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. And with our three kids, each one was kind of different and unique. So just be prepared. I mean, it could go. The best story I was trying to show some of our folks on staff yesterday, my youngest daughter, she was already all excited. She took one step on the school bus, turned around, looked at us, and just bawled. So it's just you just never know.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I mean, shoot, major milestone in their life, but in your life and your wife's, it's all, but it's fun though too. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's going to be an emotional day for you.
He's excited. That's the biggest thing. He's ready for it. He's way more than I am. I can tell you that. So I appreciate that. We got a few things to chat about. Obviously, Bison related. I appreciate the FCS playoff chatter, but your other job with a rather busy week, and we were just visiting off air. This I know has been in the works planning wise for 2 years to culminate on Wednesday and Thursday. How big of an opportunity, and also just fundraising-wise, is this over Wednesday and Thursday, and potentially how the game outcome may affect that as well?
Well, I think it's always good, and we talked a little bit. That's why the importance of these games, because nothing mobilizes our fan base other than a national championship. These FBS games are something that's really important to, and that's why we've always tried to make sure we try to get these on our schedule. We'd like to not have it on the every 4-year rotation that we've been the last couple of years, but because you do, and part of it is obviously the excitement here in town is great, but even with these types of games, we're going to see fans from all over the country coming in who, maybe this is the one game they're going to see this year, maybe outside of a championship game or whatever it might be. And so you're getting to see a chance to see some folks that you don't see at every tailgate. You don't see them at every team maker function. You don't see them at games. So those are really good opportunities to be able to engage with some of those folks. And then, I mean, if you can go out there and have success and turn it into a win, then that springboards into a lot of other opportunities too. So now these are, I always say, these are your Chamber of Commerce days a little bit. Wow. Where these are great days for NDSU, the campus, the community, and to be able to take it on the road. Great for athletics and great for the university.
Do you believe Rick George, the Colorado AD, will avoid you like the plague when you see him this week, or try to see him this week?
I hope not. I mean, it was 8 years ago or something like that. I think we signed this.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember it was 8 years ago this summer that you got the game.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed for them. I mean, just look at how their program has a visibility and that kind of stuff. So I do. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a great atmosphere. Our fans are going to be loud. They're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to be crazy. And our guys are going to be ready to play. It's going to be fun.
The anticipation, it's a primetime game, ESPN. This is old hat, but also different because the amount of eyeballs, I firmly believe this is going to be the most viewed Bison football game, I think, ever. I really believe that come Thursday night.
No, I think you're probably right. And I think ESPN would echo all of those same sentiments. And that's why I think back in February, they made the big push to try to get this game to Thursday night and get it in prime time, where there's not a lot of competition. There's not a ton of other games going on. This was the game that ESPN wanted on opening weekend. And I think it speaks to the brand of both of our programs. If they're playing another FCS team, I don't know if maybe ESPN is that excited to get it on Thursday night on prime time. And so this speaks to our brand. But no, I mean, the amount of eyeballs that are going to be on that game, that get a chance to see NDSU, folks who've heard things about NDSU now get to see us kind of up close and personal. So it's going to be great.
We had Cam Bastian, Matt, on the show last Friday to detail some of the changes that are coming for game day and also the new ticket package. I've had people come in and talk to me about, especially about the game day changes, whether it be the helmet going away or the chance to run out on the field, the team walk. All of them have been overwhelmingly like, okay, I'm excited about the change. What's the feedback you've had since this is made public last week?
I would say very similar. I think it's been really, really well received. And, one of the challenges we always have here at NDSU, because we have such a long history and tradition, and we have a ton of tradition, particularly around the sport of football. And so it's always the balancing act of, as college athletics evolves, as our fan base evolves, as things that people have to do evolves, how do we evolve, still maintain tradition, but also kind of keep up with the times. And that's where Cam's been great. We put together a group this off season to really evaluate game day experiences, not just for football, but men's and women's basketball and some of our other events, knowing that I think the fan base wants more. They want a different experience. And so that's where Cam and this group has done a really good job of, thinking outside of the box, maybe breaking tradition in a couple of areas, but I think areas that are going to move the needle and be positive. It's not doing it just to do it. I think some of these things are really going to move the needle. And, some of the things you've mentioned, whether it's the experiences, that people haven't had a chance to do before, being on the field, being near the team when they walk out, that's a big deal if you're a Bison fan. Heck, if you're a new Bison fan, or if you've been a Bison fan for 50 years, that's pretty neat. And so that's been really popular. I think overwhelmingly the team walk has been really, really popular, whether it's at Fan Day we had last week, where we had a great turnout. Staff did a great job of putting that together. I mean, I had more people come up and say how excited they are being able to high five the guys as they're walking into the dome on game day. And then, even some of our higher end donors think it's a really neat thing. And so again, just some different things. I think and that's great for our guys to get out there and tailgating, and because they don't, until they're done playing, to see the level of passion from our fan base, get to say hello quick and thanks for coming before they head inside. And I think it's really positive for our fans as well. So I think these are all things that we're trying to do things a little bit differently, not lose obviously the focus on who we are and what we're about, but trying to make it, whether it's more entertaining or more accessible, I think is really important for us.
The concept of the field level suite we talked about during the spring showcase, you brought that out. I thought that was a really neat idea with the team makers there. That's something you're going to carry over to the regular season.
We are. It actually got branded yesterday. It's the Team Makers Tunnel.
Okay.
And so it'll be on let me get my directions. It'll be on the southeast vomitory on the field level. And, and that's where, and we'll have to talk maybe multiple times. Maybe we need a weekly segment on the Fargo Dome renovation vote in November. Or maybe a daily. I can come on every day if we need to.
You know where I'm at on that. So
yeah, but in lieu of not having that renovation piece, again, how do we continue to change the experience? And it was great. We went to US Bank Stadium last year.
Yeah.
Any kind of way you could possibly consume the game, you have a chance there. There's a ton of different ways to do it, and so this is a way for us to try to create. And also, again, I think what we hear from fans, from team makers, that's it's the experience things that really moves the needle for them. Now, this is an experience that people haven't been able to do. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. So the opportunity to get people down to be able to watch the game at a different level. You hear more people talk about, oh, wow, I didn't realize the players were that big, were that fast. It's a different view. Dom, when you're up in the stands versus on the field, it's a completely different view and vantage point and perspective. So excited about that too. Again, just trying to add different experiences and opportunities for our fan base.
We got to roll, but I know Colorado brings Ralphie out, the Buffalo. Could you want to do that for a home game? You have a live bite. You could do that if you wanted. You could really spice things up, I guess.
That would really spice some things up. We actually have we have a bison. I know they actually run a bison out there. They don't run a buffalo out there. It's actually, but again, maybe semantics. But anyway, no, I mean that would be honestly be pretty cool. I don't know how we manage it. I don't know who provides.
I was going to say, who's signing up to run with it? By the way, is that you?
We're gonna let you run out the first one, and then that may be the end of the idea, or we'll see.
I'll nominate Phelps on that. We'll put Phelps in charge of that. Can he do that one? So
he's always telling me how athletic and fast he is, so maybe.
Thanks as always for the time. I know you got a crazy week coming up, and we'll see you in Boulder in a couple days, all right?
Sounds great. Appreciate it, Dom. Thanks.
Matt Larsen, NDSU AD, joining us here on this Friday morning. The changes coming to the FCS playoffs and also to Bison game day. Appreciate his time there. We'll break. We come back. It's time for some picks. We've made it to that part of the year. My dad on deck to wrap up our week. We're back on Hot Mic in 3.5 minutes.